Destiny 2 Law. Most loyal. Where loyalty lies. Varex's experiment succeeded, but not how he expected. Ingestion of the etheric concoction still resulted in fall and death. It was not by any means a life-sustaining substance. It was, however, a life-giving substance. Though the dark ether lingered like a heavy fog, it also seemed to reach out toward empty vessels. In this case, it found the dead dregs that littered his floor. It slipped inside the corpses like a slow inhalation, inflating them, stretching them to the point of boils and bursting, pulling them to their feet. The dark ether gave these lifeless dregs new life. They seethed. Their breathing was steady, but hard and fast. They rumbled as if volcanoes lived inside their chests. A black fire rose from their skin as they burned this dark ether like a jet engine burns its fuel. What Varex really saw before him was hate-fueled rage incarnate, and the beginning of another whirlwind. They were no longer just fallen. Fikrul called them his scorn. Behind him, Fikrul laughed and laughed and laughed until he abruptly stopped. At that exact moment, the scorn dropped to the floor, dead once more. Your scribes, your kells, your houses, they will all soon be forgotten, like the elders and the Skaith before them. Fikrul growled in Varex's precious high speak of judgment. This drew Varex closer, face to face through the cell's porthole. Fikrul turned his ear upward, listening, brought his attention back to Varex. Father says. The pause hung, heavy in the air. Father says, you know where your true loyalty lies. The fanatic stepped back from the porthole and waited. Loyalty, true loyalty. He expected a memory of Mara to appear in his mind, but instead he found himself thinking about the prophecies of House Rain, Kell of Kells. Days later, Varex performed his duties for the last time. He visited Central Control, ran a test sim on the security systems, made some adjustments based on the results, revised and signed off on the daily roster rotations. Finally, he had a private conversation with the prison's sole remaining high servitor. The prison of elders would not go without a warden. He did not speak to Petra. By the end of that day, the prison of elders descended into chaos. Your time will come, Varex. Aldrin sits in his favourite spot, gazing in his favourite direction. She told me so. She has but one last wish of you. No, Your Grace. Varex's voice was gravelly with emotion. It is I who has one last service for you. Varex left before he could change his mind. A klaxon blared. The voice of the prison's high servitor echoed over the loudspeaker, in Varex's voice. Security systems malfunction, emergency shutdown and reboot commencing. The place dropped momentarily into darkness, but emergency lighting quickly illuminated the cell block. All around him, alarms sounded, warning lights flashed, pneumatics hissed, and cryogenic fluids evaporated to fog as the cryocells lining his cell block began to open. Varex moved as quickly as he could toward the exit, not bothering to look back, for he knew what he'd see. The scorned barons and Prince Aldrin were free, as was every single resident of the prison of elders. Varex slipped out, under cover of prison anarchy, through the same secret passage in which Petra and Cade had smuggled Prince Aldrin. There a ship waited, loaded with the prison's ether stores. As he walked, he made 2 recordings to be sent out by the prison's relays once he was away. For the first, he disabled his voice synth and began in the deep resonance of high-speak to give commands. He didn't know how many would answer Judgment's call, but he had to try. For the second, he turned his voice synth back on. They call me betrayer, I who was most loyal. They do not think I hear the words. Bug, insect. He paused. Fallen. Up, long strides, fast now, along the ramp into the ship. Toward the bridge, a vandal in wolf colours saluted him as he passed. I hear the words. House of Judgment always hears. No choice, to keep the houses together. He paused again as he reached the bridge of his ship. Judgment always hears. The great machine stood in judgment. Elixni fell to fighting, fell to hate. Emotion caught in his voice. Cannot stomach this hate. As he spoke, the ship's engines rumbled to life. On the screens, Varex could see explosions resonating through the prison. His former charges running rampant, His ship passed through the bay's barrier and began to move off. Nowhere else to go, no one else to be, here. He drew himself up to his full height. And so I become Varix, the Kell, House Judgment, envoy to the Elixni people. No choice, he repeated, chuckling deep in his throat. His voice was calm. Elixni must rise, yes,